How are you anyway?
I'm good, man. I'm good. First of all, I just want to thank you for joining us on Socialcast. For the people that are listening, just first of all, explain who you are and what you do, and then we're just going to dive straight into it, bro.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'm Ibrahim. I go by Rahim. I'm a musician. So I specialize in different types of music. Along with music, I do songwriting, that kind of stuff. It's a lot deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's not only about songwriting or producing or anything like that. It's a lot more in depth. But I've been doing it for about 7 years now. I left school in 2013, and I always knew that I wanted to do it, but I didn't know how to do it. So I took a little bit of a risk, started being independent, going to labels and stuff, and sending my music out and stuff like that. But it's been a heck of a journey since then, and it's just kind of hopefully see what happens.
Yeah. So, what kind of got you into music in general? Because it is a bit of a, it's a hard industry to be in. I like that you're at work or something. I don't know what you're doing, but there's a lot of business going on in the background.
Family at a food establishment, and we're actually closed today. And
Okay.
I thought I had some paperwork to do, so I thought I'll come down here and do the call here.
Yeah.
But people don't know that we're closed, so they're ringing. But I've put the phone over there.
No worries. But yeah, how did you get into the music? First of all.
So I always knew from a young age that I wanted to go into music, but it's always about taking that first step. I think it's always that first step is really important, and it took me a while to even take that first step. I think for me it was more about opinions and other things like that kind of would push me back. So I went to school, I did my GCSEs. I knew that I wanted to do it, but like I said, it was just kind of one of those things because I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know anybody that was in that situation at the time. I didn't know anybody that was in that situation at that time. So it was a bit hard for me in terms of I didn't know what kind of route I wanted to take and how to do it. I left school. I did my A-levels. I think I went into college in 2013. Went into in 2013. Obviously, going to college is more of an independent life. You don't have teachers constantly going at you for not doing the work. So my spare time that I was supposed to actually be doing my assignments, I would book studio time and I'd go. This was very early on. This was, I think, age 16. Yeah, age 16. So not knowing anything about music, not being just a music fan and a music listener, not really having any experience in it, was kind of tough because it wasn't as easy as going into a recording studio and getting an instrumental and recording on top of that. It was a lot deeper than that. There was the whole creative process that went with it. It started off as a fun thing, but it actually became very difficult in terms of I don't think people understand, and I think the same is with yourself as well. People don't understand the actual detail that goes into and the intricate detail that goes into creating something and taking your time with it as well.
Yeah.
That's why I met somebody around 7 years ago. Somebody that I'd heard about me and I'd heard about that person in particular that had actually been doing music from the age of 12, from Bradford as well. That was a complete genius at absolutely everything, from the mixing to the mastering to the creatives. We started working together back in 2014. Yeah, 2014, 2.5 years ago. And I actually went under his wing where all my music was concerned. And I got a lot of insight into a lot of things where music is concerned. It wasn't easy as I thought it'd be.
There's so much that goes into music, and I like the fact that you've kind of took your time with it as well, because I know a lot of artists kind of rush into it and jump straight into it and kind of not think out of it.
That's my one thing in terms of I've not really had any music. I don't know if you've heard my music.
I've heard a few stuff. I remember you sending me some of your old music ages ago because we was going to work together. And I was like, yo, like you was a fresh sound because I usually work with rappers and stuff like that. And you obviously sing. So to me, it was just like, this is like totally fresh. I was excited.
I was
to work with you.
Just kind of with that whole situation, with that process. A lot of people ask me, and I think that's the main reason why I don't have a lot of activity on my social media, or I don't have a lot of engagement. Obviously, that's something that I can work on along the way.
Yeah.
But it important for me and for the person that I was working with to ensure that you have to be obsessed with it. If you're going to do it, you have to be obsessed with it. You have to fall in love with the creativity of it. If you're not going to, then the point of going into a studio and recording. I mean, for MCs and rappers, it's a completely different ballgame. Their lane is completely different. Where singers are concerned, it's a very long process. So I've not put any. I mean, I put a song out back in 2018. I recorded a song. I think you see with my records and my songs that I have recorded, it's very it's like, okay, we'll go back to it. It's more of like, okay, we'll work on it and we'll go back to it. So it'll probably take me about an hour to figure out, okay, what do I want something to sound like? Yeah. Then it will take weeks, months, even years to fine tune it and get it to how we want it to be. Hence the reason why I've not put anything out. It's been 2 years I've been planning on. I mean, before the pandemic, actually, I was due to put some music out. It was kind of time, okay, in March I wanted to put a song out. Unfortunately, through circumstances, obviously I've always said that the next track that I release will have a video with it, and could do a video. So, and it didn't really work out. I think there was so much going on, especially recently. There's been a lot going on in the world where it just doesn't feel like the right time to be putting music out and promoting yourself. I think it's more important to be putting, like, you know, having awareness with actual issues that are going on. That kind of struck us back a little bit, but we are actually going back into the studio, I think, next week. We've got a few ideas. I mean, it's a completely fresh sound. It's a completely different chapter, different era. You know, it's going to be, hopefully, I'm hoping. Look, it's not about. It's honestly, for me, it's not about. I don't want to get 50,000 views. I want to genuinely, the genuine music listeners and the people that know good music will listen to it and they will appreciate music. You don't need 1,000 people to watch your video. If you have 100 people watching your video and there's that one person that can open a door for you, a share is a share, a like is a like. Even if it's 10 likes, it's got some kind of recognition. So where that's concerned, is I don't have any regrets where that's concerned at all.
Yeah, of course. And in terms of, like, because you said you're coming with a new sound, is that something you've really tried to be working on? Or is that something that you've developed over time? Like, how do you then, after the pandemic, because there is going to be a lot of artists that are going to be dashing out music, how are you then going to figure a way out, you know, to stand out, because it is very saturated as the music scene?
I think with me, especially in the last few years, it's not only been recently as well. The last few years, my issue has been developing a sound. A sound I feel comfortable with, the sound that represents me and where I am. You see, I don't want to put myself in a box and say that I'm an R&B singer or I'm a pop singer or anything like that. I mean, if it sounds good, it sounds good. I mean, I vibe to, like, this soft rock. There's the genres. I've been vibing to dancehall a lot recently. I mean, there's a lot of dancehall records out at the moment, but you've got to make it your own in order to stand out. So I've been kind of mixing around with different kind of fields. I mean, it's more of you know, I'm not in a position to put out ballads. Or I'm not in a position to put out, you know, melodical piano tracks at this moment in time. As much as I'd want to, you know, it's a good, especially when you're putting a project together. You know, having 3 dance tracks or, you know, 3 kind of urban tracks, and then having you know, a ballad in between. It has a nice kind of, like, a border between both sounds, and it kind of tells a story. That's what I wanted to. That's what I wanted. When I started out, I said, you know, I wanted to tell a story. You know, you can tell a story. You can have, you know, you can make records that are fun at the same time, and that, you know, are talking about things that are going on right now. But that's been my main focus, is in developing a sound and making sure that I work to a level where when they hear a vocal of mine, they know that's me automatically. I don't want to copy anybody else. I'm not going to look at somebody else, what they're doing, and, you know, props to them. If they're doing something right, they're doing something right. But I'm not going to. I think somebody was saying to me the other day, somebody that I'd spoken to after a while, saying that there's a lot of artists putting stuff out at the moment, and you haven't put anything out, and what are you doing? And my reply was to that, I'm going to take my time. Once I'm ready, you know, I've worked on so many songs, Thomas. You know, over the years, 6 years, you know, I've been constantly recording. But if it doesn't sound right, then I'm not going to put it out. I'm not going to set myself up to fail.
Of course, you're your own worst critique, so therefore, like, there's stuff that you probably would never even put out to the world, but it's just something there that you can then learn from and adapt to. I just want to go back a little bit from when you first mentioned this was, you know, people judging and stuff like that. Like, is that something you kind of, a lot of people have a lot of judgment in the music industry about how people sound and stuff like that. Is that something you work towards? You care for people, or do you kind of just ignore that and really stick to with who you are and what you do? Because I can imagine it being pretty hard to, you know.
Well, you know what? I think years I've developed a very thick skin in terms of that, where they're not going to pay your bills. They're not gonna change your life in any way. You know, a couple of comments from people isn't going to really make a difference. I mean, a few years ago, it would have affected me because, you know, being younger, you know, and being in school and you know, surrounding myself with people that were opinionated. It was a little bit of a risk, and it was a little bit of it was a bit of a grey area, thinking, okay, do I do it, do I not? But then thinking to myself that, am I gonna not do something because I'm getting a little bit of judgment? They're gonna judge me either way.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day. But I've developed a very thick skin over the years in terms of, I mean, I got a lot of people messaging me on social media saying that, you know, we're liking what you're doing. And it is quite funny, to be honest, because the same people that I was scared of with the judgment are the same people that are wanting to go into this kind of lane now. You know, everybody wants to become a musician. It's quite hilarious how people have are taking that kind of route to it. But I think you have to have a lot of thick skin in order to survive. Especially, it's not even the music business in general. I mean, at this moment in time, I'm not even a signed artist. I'm not even known by many people. You know, I have a minority that have awareness about who I am. But that makes me strive even more, because when I put a video out on Instagram of a sample that I've done, and if I get feedback on it, it is a good feeling where I think, okay, it is maybe worth something. I've always said from the get-go that music, you see, a creative person doesn't, it's not, the thing is, I think the perception people have is, it's not necessarily about being famous. I mean, for some people, yeah, some people come from situations that are not as pleasant as everybody else's.
Yeah.
And they would to a level where they can, you know, support their family, and they can, you know, have enough money to survive, or, you know, have completely changed their life from what it was before. But for myself, it isn't really about that. If you genuinely enjoy the craft of the music and you like doing it, I mean, I go into a studio. I mean, I'm going to a studio next week, and I'm in from 12 till 12. Like, it's a long process where it's a constant thing. You can't just shy away from it. You have to be in it 100%. If you're going to do it, you have to be in it 100%. So with where that's concerned, it's not about the fame aspect of it. And I think when you start incorporating that, because I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of mainstream artists that have gone from a certain genre, and then they've gone mainstream, and then they're getting all these endorsements from other companies, and, you know, they're branching out, which is awesome. Like, anybody would love that. Like, if it happened to myself, I always had that mindset though, saying that if it happens, if it blows up, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
But as far as music is concerned, because it's something that I enjoy, and it's always something that I'll do and something that I'll dive into. And I think that you know from yourself as well, that's, you know, when you're at home, especially in quarantine, you've been probably editing loads of videos and just kind of brushing up on your skills.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You need to have the love for it in order to.
Of course. And people that don't, they kind of like flake off anyway. And I think it's the perfect time right now to learn on your craft and constantly keep going at it and get better. I want to kind of talk about where you want to go in terms of labeling. So would you rather be an independent artist? Because to me, if I was an artist, I would probably want to be, I know it's much harder, but I would want to be an independent artist because you kind of have ownership of everything you do.
I think that's been like, over the years, I've had different opinions on it, but I think as I've got older, I wouldn't personally want to be tied into a deal. In terms of, because I'm that kind of person where I'm creatively in control. I like to be creatively in control. I mean, the person that I work with, I also collaborate with him. We're very driven in terms of, we like to be in control creative-wise. So I think being signed to a record label, if anything was to blow up or if anything was to become successful, would be a bit of a challenge. I don't like being told what to sing and what not to sing. I mean, the songs come to me in different ways. They come to us in different ways. You know, we could hear a melody, we'll lock it in, record a voice memo, come back to it. or we'll hear a piano synth. I think everything kind of starts with a voice note. The idea kind of sounds with a voice note, but I'll go into more depth with you in that in a second. But where labels are concerned, I have seen people that have been signed into even less known people that kind of get a little bit of recognition. Labels pick them up, sign them, and then they're stuck in in an album deal where they've had one single artist done well, second single's not done so well. They can't sign to anybody else. They can't release no music without having the backing of that label, which is a little bit issue, because if you're not getting anything that you need from the label, and if they're not giving you that backing, and you want to drop music, then it is a bit of a situation, because then all the legalities come into it as well.
Of course, and then you're just like a stuck creative that can't really put out any content because, like I say, you tie down to a label, which is probably the worst thing any creative can be in. Like, that's probably the worst position you can be in as a creative.
I think with a lot of people is the labels, where the labels are concerned, is for people that want to. I think it's more. I think you see, I'm not making commercial. I am, and I'm not making commercial music.
Yeah.
I'm making, every time we're making a record, it's like, okay, is this going to sound good on a radio? Is it going to sound good on an iPhone? And is it going to sound good on a DJing platform? You need to think of all platforms. When we finish the vocal and when we start the mixing, well, I don't do the mixing or the mastering. It's my friend that does it. When he starts the mixing and master process, he has to take all this into account. So in that aspect, yeah, it's commercial music, because we always take radio into consideration. Obviously, all my future music is going to go on streaming platforms like Apple Music, iTunes, YouTube Music. But where that's concerned, it's kind of, I think the music industry as a whole as well, it's like monetizing records, re-releasing records, samples, especially like that. It's a bit of a shit show, because you're stuck in a deal, you're being told what to sing, and then when it's not working out, you're getting shafted for it through the label. They give you the stick saying that, well, you've not done as well, and you've not done this many sales, and we've spent this much on production, and you're not going to get this back. And then when you finally want to release music, it kind of it messes with your creative freedom. I think I don't know who's to say. I don't know if a label deal ever came in the future, and if it was right for me, if it ticked all the boxes, and if they agreed that I could have creative control, I would potentially consider it. But that's at this moment in time where I am now. I wouldn't really consider it at this moment in time.
Of course. And like, have you ever thought of, because I feel like it's also my responsibility as a filmmaker or a music video director to shape that artist's future. So I feel like artists kind of, although the music might be brilliant and stuff like that, they haven't thought about the vision. So like, who they want to be presented or represented as on camera, you know what I mean? Because it's like, end of the day, you have to literally think about everything as an artist. So once you've got all the music aspects conquered, you kind of need to think about your imagery and how you want to be perceived, through your music videos. So have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, that's been a conversation that we've had a few conversations about that. Obviously, coming so close to kind of being satisfied with what we've made, and kind of figuring out what's going to happen in the future. It has been a bit difficult in terms of how do I market myself? How do I put myself out? Yeah. Where social media is concerned, I'm no pro at it. I'm not a pro at social media. I never have been. So that's the question that keeps on getting raised. I mean, I'm not into gimmicks personally. I'm not into gimmicks, and I'm not into the superficial or materialistic kind of things in the music kind of scene. The songs that I'm putting out are quite upbeat as well. We've got quite a few upbeat tracks that have kind of made the cut and that we're looking to put out. Yeah. So it's a bit difficult. I mean, obviously, in order to make a video, obviously you'll know as well. I don't know about previous clients that you've worked with, but you have to have a storyboard. You need to know what you're doing. You can't just turn up on the day at a location and just start swinging your hands around. You need to make sure that I think to be honest with you, going back to the MCs and the rappers and the people that spit bars, I think that's a bit different, because their music and their imagery is very different. But when you're an artist that's spending all this time creating music, it needs to look polished. It doesn't need to always look polished, but it needs to, especially when you're putting, especially somebody that's in my position, that's putting music out, it needs to all fit, and it needs to all be.
I think it needs to have structure, and that's one thing I do want to talk about is I've recently moved away from that because I was doing that. I was going up to shoots with kind of not having any storyboard or any idea. That's purely because every time I'd approach that to an artist or to a rapper, let's just say, because they all kind of want the same thing. They didn't get it. They didn't want to, listen or like that, and they just wanted a normal performance video. But now I'm only working with certain people that are allowing me to have that creative freedom where I can then shape their vision, obviously understand them as an artist, create their vision through music videos and how they want to be presented. Because I think it's important, but a lot of artists misunderstand it and think it's not irrelevant when it is. If you look at Europe and stuff like that,
visuals are really important.
But their visuals, like same with NSG as well, like them two are very similar. They do similar videos. It's just them messing about because that's their character. That's who they are as artists as well. Like they're just having fun with it. But then you've got someone like Dave, who's more, political and more like serious, which you can tell through his music videos. So I think it does shape you as an artist to music videos. But that's kind of my point on that. And then I'm trying to shape towards that as well, working with artists that have that vision mindset.
Yeah.
But where do you go from now? Because obviously now you're getting to this point of releasing music, especially after once quarantine's over with. Have you got any videos stocked up, or is that something you're looking to do soon as quarantine's kind of?
Yeah, obviously, I'm hoping that this situation, I'm hoping the situation dies down quite quickly, and it's safe to, go back to some. It's not going to be completely normal how it was before, but some kind of normality where we can kind of get things done. We are on shooting a music video. I mean, we've got a few songs that are ready, that are prepared, and now we just need to obviously get opinions on what's good and what's not, and what I can put out as a first track after so long. So visuals are in the mix. It's just about obviously sitting down. Obviously, I'm going to contact yourself as well. Sit down. Obviously, everything needs to be precisely done. I want there to be a concept. I want there to be a theme. I want there to be a storyline. Start to finish. There's going to be a story about what's going on in this video. It's not going to be a video of me in front of a green screen, miming the lyrics of the track. It's not going to be that. There's going to be a little bit of that, but there's going to be a concept. I want people to have that experience of seeing what that story is and where we're going with it. And I had a concept to kind of have a continuation, have one concept and have a continuation from track to track. So have like a continued next video. Okay, we're here. We're continuing from where we left off. I really liked what Zayn Malik did with his last record. He had a couple of tracks that had one theme, and the themes went into each other in terms of he had to be continued, and then went into the sophomore version of that song where he had a similar video and they were on the run. I think that was pretty cool. There's a few artists that have done that. And it's just about gathering inspiration, I think, to be honest. I think, to be honest with you, I prefer to watch music videos that have a storyline and have a concept rather than watching just a regular video, With a lot of musicians, especially mainstream musicians, have gotten to that point where they have started putting out. I think what they tend to do is they make records and they make them out to be deeper than they actually are. And they build a concept around it, which makes it more like you have more fan engagement and you have more people viewing it and people looking in between the lines and listening to the track and thinking, oh shit, this is some deep shit, even though it might be like a dance record. So it's not the concept. I think that's what I'm working towards now.
Yeah, and I think it's brilliant that you're doing that, because if you look at your mainstream artists, like I always look at recently, I've been looking at Taylor Swift stuff, because Taylor Swift's music videos are next level. I don't like her music. Like, I'm not really a fan of her music. But her music videos are unreal. You know what I mean? Every single one's different and every single one's kind of telling a story in some form. And the person that does it the best in UK is obviously, we all know, Rapman. Like, he's unreal with what he does. So yeah, I think it definitely is important that people, especially artists, definitely need to think about. And when a director approaches you with an idea, they've obviously listened to something different within how you perceive the music. You know what I mean? So I think anyone that is listening to this, that's an artist, kind of have an open mind with things. And when a director or you approach someone for a music video and they come back with an idea, kind of ask them why they come with that idea rather than just saying no straight away, because we see things differently. And hear things differently as well. I want to talk about collaborations because I know this industry that I'm in, it's a bit hard to collaborate with people because everyone's a bit sensitive and like want all credit to themselves. And now I've talked to a few artists and it is similar to that, but how have you found collaborating, if you have done any collaborating, if that is?
I mean, obviously I've collaborated with, I think Come On In, the first track that we put out, was a collaboration between myself and two other people. Then I released a solo track back in 2018. I've not done much. I mean, the people that I've done collaborations are the people that I've worked with, but we've always collaborated on a demo purpose, like for demo purpose. And sometimes it works out. I mean, there's some tracks where we think, shit, like that's a demo, but if we work a little bit more on this, then it could potentially be a record. I was in talks with a few people to collaborate with them. And it was kind of one of those things where I think, going back a few years ago, where I was going to collaborate with somebody in particular. But I only want to collaborate with people that they don't have to have the same vision, because everyone has their own vision and everyone has that same, they have the different mindsets, which is absolutely cool.
Yeah.
But that mindset wasn't focused towards the music. It was more towards the gimmicks and the things surrounding it. And before we'd even gone into a studio to record the song, it was like, yeah, we're going to have this in the video, and we're going to have that in the video. And my creative process, even back then, was like, okay, I need to really overlook this song and I need to constantly have a listen and see if it's even worth finishing. We never even got into the studio. I never got into the studio with this artist. But it was more about, to be honest, it's always about clout. Like,
yeah,
I appreciate artists that go out and, the ones that say they're doing it for the city, they're doing it for the friends, that kind of thing. I appreciate that, because that's their lane and that's what they want to do. That's the story that they want to tell. But when you start bringing gimmicks into it, it takes away from the music. And then it's just, you're here for what? You're here to record a verse over, a 1 minute verse, and then you're going to go and you're going to spend all this time into a music video that's not even tastefully done, and just get all your friends around the day. I don't get it. But obviously that's respect to them, that's their vision, and that's the way they do things.
Yeah, of course.
Which is fine. So the collaborations that I was in talks with didn't really work out because I pulled the plug on them myself. I'm not looking to collaborate with anybody at the moment. I've not really seen anybody at the moment. I think my main concentration at the moment is kind of getting my own tracks out and then seeing where it goes. But it can be a bit difficult when you're collaborating with somebody, because you could have two completely different visions for a track.
Yeah. And
you don't offend anybody in any way. I mean, obviously rap is quite, the way rap's elevated and the way grime is elevated is quite explicit in terms of the lyrical content.
Yeah.
So I've not really got myself in a situation where that's concerned, but eventually I will collaborate with some people. But I'm very specific with who I want to collaborate with. Because don't forget, when you're collaborating, if I've got a single or if I've got a song, that's going to represent me. They're not going to, it's going to give that artist some recognition as well, but that's going to represent me. So if I was to put a track, for example, with you, your verse on the track would represent my project. Versa. So if I was doing it on yours. So I think you have to be very careful, and you have to. I've heard. Obviously, I keep up to date with the local music news, especially in Bradford. There has been a lot of disputes where collaborations are concerned. A lot of people have fallen out, and it's kind of got crazy how it's supposed to be music. I think that all comes down to the creativity levels. If you're creative, of course you're going to get aggressive about it, but there's a way of doing it and there's a way of executing something. And if it's not gonna, like, I've been listening, because in quarantine I've been bored as hell.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to a lot of unknown artists from Bradford, from surrounding areas as well. I've been listening to a lot of Blazer Bockel. He's pretty good. S-Dog, he's really good as well. I mean, I'd collaborate with these people in the future, but I'm not going to do it for the sake of doing it now. Or I'm not gonna hit them up. I mean, I think I did Blazer going back a few weeks ago, saying that, look, because I heard one of his tracks and I did kind of vibe to it. But I wouldn't be in a position to work with anybody at this moment in time, just because I've spent this much time getting to where I want to be, and I've got so long to go. Like I've got so many things to do in terms of getting everything, or prepared that I don't want to go out of the window for a collaboration, because that's going to take away from creativity at the same time, if you know what I mean.
You've got to keep yourself in check before anything else, 100%.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, you know, when you're looking for collaborations, do you look for, like, I know the creativity side of things and the talent is one thing, but then the other thing is, you know, if they're a nice person or not. So do you go by that as well, if you literally connect with the person before the talent's even a thing? Because I think doing it that way, it makes so much better work when it comes to actually, you know, collaborating and doing work things. Do you do that?
Definitely 100%. I mean, you need to be able to get on with it. If you're working with somebody, you need to be able to get on with them. And I don't like this whole, I don't know, God knows what the future will tell, but I don't like this whole business of sending a verse or recording in a separate studio. I you know, in order to make that, to make a quality song, or to make sure that it's you know, intertwining with each other, you need to be able to perform or record that song in the same studio. And for example, because I'm a creative freak, when it comes to creative, like, I want to be, if I'm going to collaborate with somebody, I want to make sure that they, like, for example, the person that I work with is so, like, it's not hard on me. It's because he has a lot more experience.
Yeah.
That I'm not allowed to leave that mic until I have delivered to a good standard where you can actually, where the listener can actually hear those lyrics. It's not about the production. It's not about the beat.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that we're getting the delivery. If the delivery isn't great, it's going to be a shit song. Like, you need to make sure that if you know, I mean, a lot of people sing songs about heartbreak and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, the girlfriend leaving or whatever, that stuff. But you can hear the track, but there's no compassion, and you can't hear it. Like, it's just literally like a beat in the back and some lyrics on top.
Yeah.
So I'm not allowed to leave that mic until I have delivered it. And that's probably why we've not released any music, because I think over time I've fallen out of love with some of the songs, because it's been that much of a journey to get to a certain level of completing them, that it's like, nah, fuck it, I don't want it. And that's happened quite a few times. Where collaborating with somebody is concerned, if I'm gonna go out of my way and collaborate with somebody, and if I'm liking their style of music and I want to work with them, I want to make sure that I get on with them. It's not about going into a studio and for clout. It's not about that. I don't want to do that. So it's important for me to make sure that I get on with that person. You know, we're going to do a song together, potentially a video together. We need to be on the same page, the same book, not, you know, because I know a lot of people, you see, that are from these areas and that are from surrounding areas that are wanting to make it, which is good for them. But there's all this, just sit down for a second. Don't act like you're famous before you're famous. That's all it is. You know, have love for the music. Have love for the music, and everything else will fall into place. You know, concentrate on your craft. Become obsessed with it. You know, as long as you enjoy to do it. I mean, I know so many people that have done music. Like, they've topped up. They've made like an Instagram page saying they put their first name and then music at the end, and then they drop their freestyles on, which is cool, because there's been a lot of people that have been doing that, and they're pretty damn good at it.
Yeah.
But then they stop doing it because why? Because they're jumping on a train that they don't know.
Yeah.
And love for it. They just want to jump on this hype. They think that, yeah, everybody's doing it, so let's do it. It's like since quarantine, for example, since quarantine started, I don't know, are you from Bradford?
Yeah, from Bradford, yeah.
So have you realised that everybody's become a baker since the lockdown?
Yeah.
It's the same situation. If you don't have the love for something, or if you don't know it, like, go for it. Like, give it your 100%. Where that's concerned, yeah. There's so many artists that have come out of the woodwork in lockdown that have got so much potential, that have their own originality. They're not singing about the same things that other people are singing about. They're actually putting their own stamp on it, which is, you know, is refreshing to see, because you rarely see that in this day and age.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, I was gonna ask. I was gonna kind of wrap it up and say, can you give any advice? But that was kind of to a T.
Yeah, advice is, don't jump on a train. I mean, I don't think, personally, I'm not in a position to give advice because I've not got to that place. But if I was to give advice, then it would be, don't jump on a train that you don't know. Be true to yourself. Spend that time. You know, we've got so much. There's 24 hours in a day. We only, as humans, we only need about 6 to 8 hours of sleep a day. Utilize your time. Social media's, got to such a level where it's elevated, where all these tools and all these skills are available for you to learn from. Practice what you want to practice, brush up on it, learn it before you go into it. I think that's the mistake that I made when I first started out back in 2013, 2014. I didn't know anything about it. I went straight into it, and I went to like less known studios in Bradford that didn't really do anything for me. But that was a learning experience for me, myself. And then fast forward 7 years, I've only got 2 songs out, which I'm perfectly fine with because I know that I've taken my time. And then hopefully in August, I'm going to start dropping songs into next year and then consistently being active. Because I think now is the time where I feel that confident in, but I'm not confident that, it's a really good track, but I'm confident with where I am right now. And I realize that everybody kind of has a listen and appreciates how long it takes, because it's a long process.
100%. And I like the fact that you kind of really know what sound you want, and the fact that you're so like passionate about it. I think that's one thing that people will definitely take away from this is passion is everything. And when you are so obsessed with it, you're going to take your time on it. You're not just going to rush it. Although don't be like a perfectionist where you don't put anything out whatsoever, but be your own critique, like I said, but at a good level, because there's certain points to it and there's certain levels to it. But I think it's definitely interesting to hear your side of the spectrum, because a lot of artists just kind of record after some sort of same principles, but not to the extent that you have, you know what I mean? So it's definitely an interesting story and a different side of how you work and how you're going to work in the future. I kind of want to ask, which you kind of touched on it a bit then, but what are the plans in the future in like a few years' time? Where do you want to kind of be at? I mean, I hate saying where you want to be at because life's like unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen, but a lot of people have goals. Like what are your goals basically?
Well, I mean, obviously my goal is to obviously have a lot of music out to gain that brand awareness and for people to know what I do. It's not specifically about artistry, and it's not about making songs. It's about having it there for people to see. I'll continue to make music for as long as I can, no matter the outcome. Like no matter the outcome, if it blows, if it doesn't blow, I have a passion for it. I'll continue to do it. Hopefully married. Hopefully, I'm hoping in the next few years that I settle down. Not yet. I think at the moment I'm 23, so I'm just kind of, because I started my life a little bit late, so I didn't really have like much of a life in high school. Quite quiet, and I didn't really mix with a lot of people. So at the age of 18, that's when I really started. So what I'm doing now is what a 20-year-old would do, like the way they live their life. I mean, I don't club or anything like that. I don't go out to party or anything like that. I'm kind of I've become an introvert where that's concerned. I like to stay inside. I like my own company. But when I do go out, it's here and there.
Yeah.
But I am hoping that we kind of look, I've gotten to a point where I'm satisfied, but I'm going to continue learning. That's the thing. Like, I'm going to learn new things over the next few years. It's going to be a mind. Like, if I speak to you 3 years from now and be like, oh, for fuck's sake, I literally learned this in the last 3 years. It's a constant thing. And artists that are in the mainstream media and that are performing, for example, artists like Kanye West and artists like Lil Pump, they're all learning at the same time. They're all, we don't see it. I don't think anybody sees it. They put out records, but people don't know that they're actually the creators behind that music. Like Kanye West is obsessed. Like, he'll make his own beats, he'll produce, he'll write. People don't see. They don't see that aspect of it. They just see, okay, like a song's come out. Okay, how did they make this? And it's all about inspiration. But I'm hoping that we, I've 7 years is a long time of creating music, and I think it would be a shame to kind of throw it away for absolutely nothing. So I always made a promise to myself from the get-go, because a lot of people said to me that it's not going to be easy. For all these artists that are around now, they work their asses off to get somewhere. So I'm going to continue to work. make good records, put music out consistently. I think I've gotten to that place now where, okay, I've had my fun for 7 years. I've gone to a studio, I've had creative block, I've had writer's block many times where I've not been doing absolutely nothing. And now I've got to a place where, okay, I'm going to the studio, I'm going to put this out, like boom, 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 put songs out. It's not, but it's, like I said earlier, I'm glad I took my time. I am thankful that I took my time.
100%. 110%. Well, I just want to wrap it up there, to be honest, because you said everything that you need to say, and I think it's a very inspirational side of things, especially for musicians that are listening. Even for me, because it's a different insight into, especially, I'd say like you're one of the top tier musicians that, it's kind of like the Kanye West type of mindset, and, everything to be as you want it to be in your head, because a lot of people are like, yeah, well, I had this vision in my head and I can't quite get it because it's going to take this long. But I like the fact that you kind of stuck with that journey and read it out, even though it's took us 7 years to figure it out.
100%.
There's something to learn from that, which is obviously patience. And don't feel like, that's what we're going to say. Don't feel like learning is like, you know what I mean? People feel ashamed about learning, even when you get to like later on. You should not ever feel ashamed about learning. Like, I think learning is a very powerful tool that people shy away from just because they feel like, oh, you calling me an idiot? No, we're saying there's room for improvement, because there's always room for improvement.
100%. Is like, you know yourself, like you learn new things all the time. Like it's not, I don't think people should be ashamed of it. Like, you need to take the time out and learn. I think that's one thing that I'm glad I got taught from very early on, that in order to succeed in this, you can't just go in and it's not a hit and quit it kind of situation. You need to put that work in, you need to learn, you need to take it. Because at the end of the day, look, nobody's going to help you. Like, I mean, the person that I work with, he's helped me for the last 7 years. And honestly, where the mix master, creative aspect of a song, putting a song together, I could not have done it with anybody else. And I couldn't have done it with that person in particular. And it's all about educating yourself. I think it's good because with music, it's always elevated. There's always new plugins. There's always a new genre that's popular. Like last year, it was Afro. It was dancehall. Still Afro and dancehall at the moment, but they're probably going to come out with a new genre that's going to, new school was quite big back in the day. That died out. So you have to also, I think, it's all well and said being happy with what sound you're making, but you also have to move with it. You have to learn to move with it, but make it your own at the same time. But I am quite excited. I am quite excited for the future. I'll definitely play some songs for you before they come out. But it's gonna be exhausting, I think, because now it's like shit. It's fucking serious now. Like when music, I think Come On In came out. It was very nerve-wracking because we'd sat on that track for about 2 years. We hadn't done anything with it, and it was actually my friend's lead track that he was going to put out after many years. So when he finally said, "Okay, we're going to put it out," and it was like, are we even ready to put it out? And that was after 2 years of sitting on that song. My Mind is a song that I put out back in 2018. I mean, obviously that was a trial and error. That was kind of like a little teaser. It was a kind of teaser at that time of what things could sound like. Unfortunately, that didn't get a lot of exposure, which I wasn't too upset about because I literally put it out. I recorded it, worked on it for about a year. Have you heard of DJ Ironic? He did a track back in the day called "Stay With Me."
I don't know.
It was like it had of Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
That one. So I was actually supposed to work with DJ Ironic on a record for his album back in 2017, late 2017. So he sent me the stems, he sent me the track. He was like, okay, this is the vibe. So I recorded a verse on it, which was cool, sent it back to him. He then got Snoop Dogg on his album. Yeah, he got Snoop Dogg on his album, and he got Paige Keiki. I don't know who she is. He got Paige Keiki on his album as well. So of course, I'm just this little 20-year-old that fucking doesn't have any followers. So he was like, I go, look, I understand, it's fine, but I go, can I keep the track? Like, I like it. So I knew the producer as well. So I ended up keeping that track, working on it, and then putting it out within a couple of days. I said, okay, I'm going to put it out. And everyone kind of warned me saying, oh, don't put it out straight away, wait a little bit, promote it. And I ended up putting it out, and I didn't get a lot of exposure for it, which was fine. It was, it was a trial and error. You got to fail in order to succeed in this business. And that kind of taught me a lot in terms of, okay, I need to really be careful with how I perceive myself and how I put music out. But after that, it was kind of like, okay, we need to really crack on with it. Like, take it to another level where you can envision it. Like the video, the plans that we have for videos are, the plans that I have for one of the videos is epic. Like the whole concept of the storyboard that I want to execute, and I'll actually message you after to discuss that. But it's in detail, very in detail, and it's going to be very funny to see how this unfolds now.
Yeah, 100%. I'm excited for you, bro. I'm excited for you because I've heard a few tracks. I remember you sending me a few ages ago, and I was just like, this kid's talented, man. So it's good to finally see you progress. Even that was years ago, that as well. I remember it, like probably 4 years ago now since you messaged me a while ago. But it's just nice seeing the progress, and now it's actually getting to that point where you're ready to move on to the next stage. And obviously, I'm here to help with that in any part. So I'm excited, man. It's going to be sick for you. It's going to be good.
Yeah, hopefully. Excited.
Well,
hopefully, 20 will be better.
Yeah. Thank you for joining, bro. I appreciate it a lot.
No problem.
And yeah, I wish you all the best, man.
Thank you very much. I have to meet up and hopefully work together.
100%. 110%.
No
all right.
problem.
Take it easy.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye-bye.